Roland Willits, heading into the universe. A hunting we will go.
Roland invited me out here to do this old man thing. I guess it's kind of a little premature on my case, but I'll eventually catch up and become one of you. So, my name's Gene Prim. I'm a newspaper man. Been in the business for 52 years. 40 of them as an editor-publisher, and one of my favorite hobbies is chasing wild game, big game hunting. I've done a lot of it in North America and enjoyed it, and I've always wanted to do the African experience, so I was out for a walk with my wife one day and just thought I'd kind of casually slip it into the conversation that I was thinking about doing a big game hunt in Africa, actually doing a safari over there, and there's that long pregnant pause that wives are known for, and stony silence for probably 30 seconds, and she says, "Not without me, you're not." So the cost had pretty much just doubled when she says that, but at least I'd gotten permission to do it. So we made it a once-in-a-lifetime hunt in 1999, and we've done 8 of them since, so it was a little more than a once-in-a-lifetime. We've done 5 trips to Zimbabwe, 3 hunts in South Africa, and 1 in Namibia. Zimbabwe's a kind of a country in real flux right now. The political situation has made it an atrocious country. It's poverty beyond any belief you'd have here, but the hunting for all intents and purposes has been wiped out, except for the truly wild areas where the Cape buffalo and the elephants and things like that roam. All of the plains game has been slaughtered by the military just to provide rations for the people. But I'm kind of a fanatic for Cape buffalo, and I've done 4 different hunts for them, been successful on 3 of them, have 3 pretty good buffalo down. And as kind of an extra added animal, I'd always kind of wanted to pursue another one of the dangerous ones, and Cape buffalo is dangerous enough on its own, but truly detest elephants because I've been chased by them so many times. But that's a real pricey item, so I decided that the next dangerous animal I would try would be a hippo. Hippopotamus, you know, is not that jolly little fellow you see in the cartoon fellows. It's the most dangerous animal in all of Africa, in fact. Kills more people than all of the other big 5 put together. Just because of its habits. It's always in a nasty mood. That's from being beat up and fighting all the time, and then also its feeding habits. The guy stays in the water all day so he doesn't sunburn himself, and then at night he goes walkabout. Well, that's about the same time that Muhammad, the native, is going from one village to the next to either drink beer with his friends or see his girlfriend or do something. But these 2 meet in the garden or in the bush trails, and the native loses every single time. The hippo just bites him, stomps him, and goes on his way. But they're always in a cranky mood. In the event, we decided to hunt hippos, and I was hunting with a fellow by the name of Rodney Smith at that time, tracker named Davidson, my wife Karen and I. And we were hunting in the Ome district way up northern Zimbabwe on the Zambezi River, probably 150 miles to the east of Victoria Falls. Buffalo hunting had been terrible. It was one of the years that I struck out on buffalo because the rains had come in the dry season. There was water everywhere out in the bush. Animals were just staying out there and doing their drinking and weren't coming to the typical water holes. And then, of course, when they got the rain, everything leafed up green again, and you can't see 10 feet most of the time. But that was the story on buffalo. So eventually I had a tag for hippo we used that year, so we switched zones and decided to try for the hippo. Well, hippos are relatively easy to find and hard to hunt. They're always cautious, and you can find a pod of them, but you can't separate the males from the females in that, because all you can see is the tops of their heads, and there's big females and there's big males. But anyhow, you don't normally hunt the herds. If you do shoot one in the water, you've got to make sure that you make the shot good. You've got something about the size of a baseball in the head that you can shoot, or you can body shoot it. But if you body shoot it, the thing's going to sink, which means that now you wait for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours until gases build up in the hopefully deceased hippo, and you can go looking for him floating somewhere in the river, which sometimes you find him, sometimes you don't, but you're going to pay for him either way. So better shot is a headshot if you're capable of doing it. But anyhow, we've given up on the buffalo, and we're looking for a huntable male hippo. Driving the boat around, and we spot a pod of hippos that are pretty much beached on this long peninsula that sticks out into the Zambezi River. And we glassed it for some time, found a huge animal laid up in the tall grass over there. So we make a long swing back again, park the boat on the back end of the peninsula, and we leave Karen and Davidson the tracker back in the edge of a burn there, right where we get out of the boat. And Rodney Smith, the PH, and I start making a stalk through long grass. Now, long grass is a nice term for something you can't see anything in. I mean, the grass will vary in height from, just chest high or waist high to well over your head and everywhere in between. But anyhow, we start to make the stalk on where we think this big hippo is. And we can hear hippos to our right, hippos to our left. We know we've got none behind us. We can see one way out on the point. Well, in order to get to this one we're going to want to get to, we're going to have hippos on 3 sides of us, and this is not a good thing to start with, but we're going to work through that as we go. Well, we hadn't made it more than probably 100, 150 yards when a little swirl of wind came through there, and then we heard the one bunch of mostly, probably all cows and calves just explode out, and they went splashing out into the water, honking and tooting and doing whatever they do. But we're rid of them now. Well, we still got the ones over to our right. But the wind is pretty good for them, so we go past them. We can hear them down there. They're snoring and honking and doing what hippos do with their daily lives. And we keep moving forward, And pretty soon we can see the vague outline of this hippo laying up on the beach, the big one we'd spotted from the lake or from the river. So we kept moving in on him. See a little more at all times, and we'd move a little bit further, and there's a little more of him exposed. And now we're getting close enough where the shot's very, very makeable, but we don't know if this is a male or a female yet. The hippo doesn't care, and the game department doesn't care, but the bulls have much better tusks than the cows, and you don't really want to orphan a calf either, so we're bound to determine to get ourselves a bull. There's only 2 ways to determine the gender of a hippopotamus. One is to sneak up on him really, really close, lift the tail, take a peek. Now, hippos traditionally don't like this, so that's to be avoided. The other method is you got to get a good view of the head, because the hippo's tusks on the bottom are huge. They fit up into a socket on the top part of their mouth. And a bull hippo is going to have a huge hump on the top of his upper lip up there, right out towards the end of the nose. Well, you can't see that when the hippo's laying on his side snoring. So we keep moving closer and closer and closer, and we still can't make a determination. My guide is whispering in my ear, it's got to be a bull. He's just too big. It's got to be a bull, but he says, I can't guarantee it. Well, now I'm torn. Do I shoot him or not? I mean, I'm bound and determined I'm going to take him if it's a bull, but I'd just as soon pass on a cow. Well, the decision kind of gets made for us about now, because we moved a few yards closer, and then I felt the swirl of wind, and I knew this is bad news. The bull didn't get our scent, but the cows and calves that we'd gone past did, and they just exploded. The bull, he, of course, hears this commotion, and he comes up. And for a huge animal, they move very, very, very fast. I mean, he's on his feet. His head comes up. He looks at us for just a second, and it's not the bull's fault. We were too close. But anyhow, he saw us, dropped his head, and my PH says, shoot that son of a bitch, he's going to come. And just like that, he's in full charge. Well, right now I changed my mind. I pulled off his shoulder, swung onto his forehead, and just, you know, it's kind of like bird hunting. Up, bang, boom. And as big as they are, shooting him square in the forehead seems to make them lose all interest. He just rocked back, he went down, and by this time I'm about 2 seconds away from the shakes, and I know that. I bolt one in quickly. I shot him again when he was on the ground, and my PH is saying, he's dead, don't bother, and bang, I get him a third one in there just to be absolutely sure he doesn't come one bit closer. But anyhow, we do a little walk-off afterwards when we can get our nerves back together again, and that bull was 19 yards away from us when he started the charge, and about 16 to 17 when he dropped dead. So he's very, very close with an extremely dangerous animal, and I'll guarantee you that that will get your heart pounding. The experience itself is you know, just kind of mind-boggling to have an animal that big, that fast, that close coming at you. In retrospect, our professional hunter, Rodney, you know, I just asked him where in the realm of things this hippo was going to fit, and he said, you know, it's probably the second biggest hippo that he's ever shot. And as he put it, the damn sure the closest one he's ever been to, and he doesn't want to repeat either one of them again. But closest estimate, we never weighed it, but that bull probably weighed about 5,500 pounds. And he had tusk in him, which are curved this way, but about 34 inches of tusk on the one side and about 33 on the other, so he is a huge old guy. Well, now we have 2.5 tons of deceased hippo laying there. And I'm not kidding about this at all. The shots were probably still echoing somewhere, and people were getting into canoes and starting outboard motors and coming over there to help us, because the word was out that we were hunting hippos and there was going to be a goodly supply of meat. So when there's that situation in Zimbabwe, and as protein starved as they are, there's people there to help, hoping to get a ration of meat. Well, I shot the hippo at about 11. By 12 o'clock or noon, there's people all over the place to help. We're starting to do the skinning, the caping, and things like that, which was being taken care of by our tracker, Davidson. And he's peeling hide and getting things ready for the butchering process. And by now I'm kind of over the shakes well enough where I can do my one assignment, well, 2 assignments actually. I'm supposed to stay out of the way, and number 2, I'm supposed to keep an eye out for crocs, because this thing is partially in the water yet, and the smell of the blood and the butchering process is going to have crocodiles like you wouldn't believe coming over to this place to feed. So I was given guard duty while the rest of them took care of the meat processing, if you want to call it processing. But anyhow, eventually we got the hide off the thing on the one side, and then they will, begin the process of filleting it all out. And USDA would have had problems with this process because this thing is laying in the Zambezi River, in the mud, in the bulrushes, and you just don't roll a hippo over. So I mean, we're doing what necessarily has to be done, but the meat's getting muddy. But it's coming off there in chunks, bits, pieces, and everything like that. Some guy shows up with a huge pontoon. Where they found that up there, I don't know. But anyhow, we're loading meat onto the pontoon, carrying it across the peninsula, loading meat onto the pontoon. Now they've filleted out the one side, so we're going to roll it over. Well, in order to make this thing roll over better, they decide to finally take the innards out of the thing. Now, if it would have been me, I would have taken all of the stuff out of there and the stomach contents and probably pulled them down the river a little ways. Nah, you don't do that in Africa. They just slit the thing open. And now they, in addition to the mess and the mud and the blood and everything else you've got there, they've also got all of the stomach contents floating around as they're doing the meat processing on the other side. But anyhow, they eventually get all of the meat out of there. It's kind of generously coated with mud and green half-digested grass. The pontoon is so overloaded it'll just barely float. But anyhow, we get everything done there, and this is the only time in Africa that we've ever left any amount of meat that I can think of, but there's just no way to get any more up there. And so mostly the bones and the internal organs were left there for the crocodiles. Typically those would be taken back to the village too, but with all of that fresh hippo meat, there was no way that they could consume it, even hanging it in the trees and making dried biltong out of it. So parts of the hippo got left there, but there was ton and a half of meat that did come out of there. Well, for the next day and a half, we're working on that hide, and the meat is being handed out and distributed among the various natives there, who are all extremely grateful for it. But there's still sacks upon sacks of this stuff left that are in burlap or flour sacks or anything that you care to call it. Well, we're working with the hides. And for the next 3 days, as we switched locations and moved throughout Africa as we headed back towards Bulawayo to hunt a different concession for some plains game, we're stopping at relatives' places and handing off this hippo meat. And I tell you, by third day without refrigeration, hippo's starting to get a real strange odor to it. So the African digestive tract seems to be able to eat protein in any stage of now, I wouldn't call it decay, but it had a lot of age. But anyhow, we dropped off all of that, so all of the meat was distributed, everything was used that could possibly be used. And didn't have any meat out of that hippo, but I have eaten it in the past. And hippo is, well, it's difficult to describe. Hippo's kind of got a taste something like beef, with a texture somewhere between B.F. Goodrich and Goodyear. I mean, you chew that stuff for a long, long time before you ever get to swallow. And that's pretty much it. It was an encounter I won't forget. It's something I probably will not do again. But that was our experience with hippo hunting on the Zambezi River.
Home and Stories, heading home with food.